tank of gas? Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass? I ain't preaching from a pulpit.
All right, guys, welcome once again to the FAFO Podcast. With me today, I got a special guest, Dr. Ervin Wolf. Today, we are sitting down, and Dr. Wolf is a neuroradiologist and the award-winning author of Not a Real Enemy, The True Story of a Hungarian Jewish Man's Fight for Freedom. The book tells the remarkable true story of Robert's father, Ervin Wolf, a Hungarian Jewish man who survived Nazi persecution, forced slavery, the Holocaust, communist rule, and ultimately made a daring escape in search of freedom. This isn't simply a conversation about history, folks. It's about what happens when ordinary people find themselves trapped beneath extraordinary evil, what survival actually requires, and why Robert believes his father's story has lessons we still deeply need today and so desperately. Robert, welcome to the FAFO Podcast, my friend.
Oh, thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me. It's a privilege and an honor. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming aboard. Look, physicians are my favorite people, mainly because one of my best friends is a doctor, so I can say it with all honesty right here. Thank you.
Well, I got to say about these protesters and the anti-Semitic haters, you don't get to decide how long I live or how long my friends live. Only God does, and a good surgeon.
That's true. That is very true, man. Let's jump into this. We were talking beforehand, and we're talking about your book and all that, and how these things are promoted. And not only that, but the climate. Let's just dive head first into this. What brought you to the book to begin with?
Well, it's a great story, and it's been a long process. My mom and dad actually wrote his autobiography in the 70s. They went from paper and pencil to typewriter to computer to disc. My mom had helped them. They were both Holocaust educators. They were both Holocaust survivors. Some of their family didn't have it so lucky, so good, and we'll talk about that. But my mom and dad wrote the stories in the 70s once they got established in Michigan, where I was born. And they wrote the stories. They were crisp and clear, and they wrote the stories like they happened the previous day. And it went from my dad's childhood and even a little bit about his father and family, which he didn't really know a lot about. They were very stoic. But it's the end of World War I to the end of the Hungarian Revolution in 1956, little-known Hungary. And they just did it like the stories were so crisp and so realistic. You could smell the smells. You could see how the table was set. You could feel the fear. You could feel the cold. And at first I didn't get, on a manuscript 30 years ago, I read it once, and I didn't really think much of it. I remember my dad's first escape, his first of four, but I kind of put it aside. And, you have a family and a career, and you're busy with life. But then flash forward to 1997. My dad passed away almost 30 years ago now. It's hard to believe, unfortunately. And mom passed in 2016. A historian friend of the family hands me the disc. The story's now on a disc. And my mom was pretty computer savvy, even when she died at 83. She was on Facebook and everything. It was kind of cool. But now the story's on the disc, and she hands it to me. You got to read this. So I didn't think much of it at the time. Took care of my mom's affairs for a year, retired for a year, and then went back to work as a radiologist, which is what I do. I'm just a recently retired neuroradiologist. Very good on that pronunciation because not everybody gets that right. But 35 years in, but needless to say, 8 years ago, my vector changed. 2018, I went back to work to help a friend. He needed a part-time radiologist. And between reading cases, never burn your bridges, by the way. That's how you keep getting jobs, even you think you're retired.
Very true.
When you don't want to work, they beg you. And then when you're desperate for a job, you don't get squat. But anyway, between cases, I looked at my dad's autobiography again on a computer, on a screen. And then I decided, oh, my God, these stories are so amazing. These miracles, 20 miracles in the book, 4-time escape artist, 2 wars, two dictatorial regimes that they survived, and with a good attitude about it. And I thought, I can't leave this stuff on a computer. I can't leave it on a disc. I need to share this with the world. So that's what that turned me into an author. I mean, it was a long process. Multiple edits, beta reads. I got a co-author. I got a great team that I picked up over the years, and turned it into something really special. So Not a Real Enemy is just that. So it's an adventure. It's a biography about my dad. It's a history book about little-known Hungary from the end of World War I to the end of the Hungarian Revolution in 56, which not a lot of people know about that, including myself before I dove into this project. I didn't know a lot of this stuff. And so it was a learning experience. It was an emotional experience. And, how could you not? My dad was a badass. He was a badass from 9th grade, even before when I was a little kid. He'd take me to the YMCA on Fridays for swimming and a Dairy Queen or whatever. I loved him. And then as a kid, when I was in 9th grade, I wanted to go to med school. I loved biology. I loved how much my dad loved his work. He was an OBGYN. by the way, and delivered 10,000 babies in the Detroit area, which is a form of redemption. It doesn't bring back the 50 or 60 million people in World War II that passed away. I mean, 6 million Jews, but I mean, that's one person is too much. But and it doesn't bring back the millions tortured, persecuted, and killed by the commies, not just in Hungary, but all over, but also all over Eastern Europe and elsewhere, of course, Cuba and North Korea still, and whatever else. But there it is. It is a form of redemption. And the remarkable thing, my mom and dad had no signs of PTSD, loved what they did, loved educating. They weren't afraid of anything. After what they went through, moving to Detroit, high crime rate, high homicide rate, who cares? So walk in the street, stick my Hungarian chest out and say, screw you, man. You can't. But what does he say in Scarface? There's nothing you can do to me more than Castro has already done to me. I'm just paraphrasing, but right?
But true.
So that's where they're at. Riots in Detroit. That's all right. Let's go out for coffee. It's no big deal. It's better than having a Russian have his gun pointed at you.
Oh, yeah.
AK-47 assault rifle or whatever they had back then. Great story in my book. My dad arguing with an armed Russian soldier during his escape, and he wins. It was like a Hogan's Heroes scene, one of those.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Heroes. Unbelievable.
That is wild, though. It is so. Here's my biggest fear in life has always been this, and you can tell it in people every day when you're talking to folks, especially if you're in any kind of social media. The sheer ignorance of our past and what's gone on in the world, what people have actually endured in this world. Stepping into that and reading this in the book, though, and knowing the person who's been intimately involved in that and has experienced it, how was that part of it?
Well, it's funny you ask because, the book was released a year before the attacks, the Gaza attacks. It was almost to the date in October 2022. And it's like my parents knew that anti-Semitism would rear its ugly head again. I mean, it was kind of low level. It's always going to be out there. There's always going to be hatred and racism, whether it's African Americans, Asians, Islamophobia, which I don't buy into. Most Islam are peaceful. They're not belligerent. They're not against the destruction of all the other religions. But enough people are that they can make a noise. But no, my parents weren't, and they just wrote the stories as though they knew I would do what I did. And I wasn't a writer back then, like I said. I wrote some parts of medical journals, articles but under the guidance of another professor or whatever. And gosh darn it, don't you hate it when your parents are right? And they sure were. It was supposed to be a legacy, something just. I don't know. I love Apocalypse Now. There's a great movie if you've never seen it. Apocalypse Now is fantastic. From the Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. The Vietnam War. But what's common about Colonel Kurtz and Captain Willard, Martin Sheen, is that both of these guys tried to explain to their kids, whether through letters or word of mouth, why they were how they were and what they did, and tried to explain. And my dad did the same damn thing. My dad tried to explain to me, in his words, what he had to go through for the better part of the 20th century in Hungary. And these poor Hungarians never got a break. Even after my parents left, it was communist for decades afterwards. So even when we went back to visit in the 70s, which unfortunately I was just in high school and I had no idea what I was doing. I missed my high school girlfriend. My parents went to the grave sites, the cemeteries, their old homes. It was very emotional for them. Nobody spoke English. I was bored to tears. But if I could do that trip again now, knowing everything they've been through, it'd be a whole different ballgame. And here we are. But Hungary and all over the world, and all this crap that's still going on that keeps resonating, whether it's 60, 80, 100 years ago or later, the song remains the same. It's people just find different ways to persecute, to torture, to maim, to kill each other. And so here we go. And I'm just saying, look, guys, let's get our shit together. Let's get our stuff together, because we're spiraling into what happened. And it always ends badly, and thousands, millions of people killed and hurt, including the perpetrators, the ones who started, Hitler, Saddam Hussein, Pol Pot, Osama bin Laden, you name them, Mussolini. It ends bad for them, but after so many people have to suffer, so cut the crap, cut it off at the pass. And this is kind of what I do. Can't fight anti-Semitism alone, but by doing programs and lectures and speeches and educating and podcasts, it's like, guys, there's more to life than food, shelter, and clothing. There's loving thy neighbor, and that goes a long way. Doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because like when I started the FAFO podcast, I wanted a place where I could just talk to people, even people I disagree with completely. We may have totally different views on whatever the hell it is. We have a different view on, but you never know what you're going to find out and what truths and facts you're going to find out if you close yourself off from communication and having the conversation.
Absolutely.
And so it's pretty disheartening to see this anti-Semitism that is really running wild right now through the country and has for the past 2 years now at a breakneck speed. It is just in a crazed spot we're in right now.
Yeah, well, bring it. You bring it, you mother. I mean, like I'm from Detroit. That doesn't make me any tougher than the next guy. But we got bullied. We got picked on. I was one of 3 Jews in my high school. My high school was about 40% African American, suburban Detroit. But that wasn't it. If people picked on you, it's because you're a small kid, young, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. It wasn't because you're Jewish. People weren't drawing swastikas at our synagogue, which actually was right across the street from the high school. It was an old Orthodox temple built in 1909 where I attended, where I did my bar mitzvah. And then it was soon razed and in favor of another one that was more conservative, just a couple blocks away.
Yeah.
But needless to say, there was none of that. There was no all the bullshit, all the trash talk. We left it on the football field. We left it on the basketball court. It was, nobody was setting cars on fire. Well, maybe downtown Detroit when the Tigers won. Thank God they haven't won it every year like the Dodgers, because we'd have this arson. We'd have this epidemic of arson. Still waiting on our Lions though, but God forbid, then the whole state will go up. The whole state of Michigan. But the state of Michigan, speaking of which, is a mess right now. I mean, talk about divisive. Talk about, people got to get their act together. They complain about the people that have won. And I'm not political. It's safe to say, read my parents' book and be appreciative that we can vote here in this country.
Yeah.
But New York's mayor and all these the Virginia governor and these people I'm reading about that. How did they get in? Well, you guys didn't go out and vote. When I was told, like, the New York turnout was 10-20%, maybe something like really, really lame. I mean, you can't complain about. And if I remember right, New York has quite a huge Jewish population, like second to Israel, if I remember correctly. I don't want to throw out some numbers that I'm wrong, but I know it's a significant Jewish population. And I've never thought of New York. I couldn't think of a city in this country, maybe in the world, that's not more integrated as far as multiple races and religions. Just go to Kennedy Airport and see where all these airplanes come from. It's remarkable. It's just a fascinating thing. So now we're getting divisive. Southern Florida, I guess some of it, there's a lot of Jewish people down here in Southern Florida. There's a lot of apathy about it. There's a lot of indifference. I guess that's the opposite of love. They say the opposite of love is hate. A friend of mine said the opposite of love is fear, but to me, the opposite of love is apathy, indifference. And I guess that's my other charge, is to say, wake up, guys, because, I don't care how much money you have, where you live. What happened to my dad could happen to you or me, and that was it was just a motivating thing that helped me. And with anti-Semitism in the backdrop, saying, somebody could hate you overnight and try to make your life miserable. And we see TV shows about it. We read books and read stories in the newspaper or on the news about it. But that couldn't happen to me because I'm sitting in my warm, comfy chair sipping on a cocktail. But it can happen to you, and people need to realize that too.
Well, it's wild to me because you look at. It's like they hear the word Jew and they have no clue what that means. Like they couldn't point out a Jew for anything. Like right there, like they don't know. They just heard Jews bad. So when you see one, well, I don't know what that looks like. Do you know what it looks like? I think it's that. Oh, we have to hate that? Let's go. That's what it sounds like.
No, exactly. Well, you've seen that Tom Brady commercial with the rapper. There's a Snoop Dogg. I can't think of who it was, but it was only short-lived. They only had it on for a few days or a few weeks, but very, very poignant. People, they're saying how they hate each other. They don't know why. My friends hate you, my this and that and that. I just heard the other day, I was in a restaurant, a guy said, it was an African-American kid. It's nice looking. The crew he was with, nice looking, upper middle class people. And he said, talking about elderly Jews, and say, well, most Jews are neat. Well, most Jews are clean or something like that. And I just kind of turned, I'm like, I was off the clock. I mean, I'm working hard enough at this crap. I don't even know why I'm doing it or why I should have to be doing it. But I turn and look at the kid, and I just, I don't want to start a discussion. This is all I do. So, but don't stereotype. Don't say, because I know a lot of Jews that are slobs, and not all Jews run the federal government or are doctors or lawyers. Some are janitors. Some dig graves for cemeteries. Some own, heating and cooling companies. It's not. Don't stereotype, And they say, all the money and this and that. Come on, the richest people: Carlos Slim from Mexico, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. None of those guys are Jewish. I mean, and I'd like to see some of these guys step up more. I'm seeing a lot of Hollywood guys stepping up a little bit. Maybe it's a little late, but the rich, the leadership needs to step up too. And I don't mean the politicians. I mean people that get listened to. Unlike some of these rappers, professional athletes, African American or otherwise, that have put down the Jews. And I'm like, dude, you're next. If you read about Hitler and the Aryans and the Great Race, you guys are next. Christians too. I mean, what are you thinking? And I got a lot of friends that are Muslim, and I got I have more friends that are Christian than Jewish, and there's always going to be the haters. You can't get rid of the less than 1%. But my job and our job is to wrap our arms around the majority that do and say, let's keep this under control. Let's as long as the guns are pointed at the enemies and not at me and you, that we're okay. But that wasn't the case in my mom and dad's. The guns were pointed at them, sadly, and the rules were against them for many, many years. And come on, guys, this is America. You may not like who we voted for, but at least you could vote. You can own a radio, you can own a car, you can shop when you want. Just appreciate the privileges we have.
Yeah, we just have the greatest country, and it is. And when I hear people complain, it's like, there are so many countries you can't do the things we do, like you just pointed out. And we look back to World War II and the lead up to that, and how all that got instigated, and what it meant for so many people. And then I don't know, man. I think that I see more people. The internet has created more geniuses than any other point in history, right? Like, everybody knows the truth and what's best and has all the answers. And it's so twisted that they have no idea what actually happened. So books like your parents' book and what you've written about here, we need more of that stuff, but people need to read more about these actual instances and what people actually went through.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a counter-education guy. I mean, education is number one thing. That's going to be the way to prevent prejudice and hatred and racism. Starts in the classroom, starts at home, really. But I'm like the catalyst to get the parents. And this is one of the great things about what I've been doing, is going to the Holocaust museums and going to these museums and churches and synagogues, community centers, and seeing kids in the audience and seeing families. And they come up to you when you do a book signing and they ask you questions about the book and the story and what about now and today. And I love that. I think that's what it's all about, is that education. And our professors, they're getting influenced by imams and people with money in the Middle East. That you hear all these stories about money fed into universities for college professors to teach the wrong thing, and I don't get that at all. Because we trust. If you can't trust your teachers, your historian, your history teachers, never mind your math, never mind medical school. I'm in an OR. This is how you do the surgery. Well, this is how you don't do the surgery. Let me show you. This is how you make more money. No, that's not ethical. That's not what you do. You teach people about right and wrong. And I don't know. It's slipping. I'm not in university anymore, but I'll tell you, if my kid were at one of these universities that had protests, I'd have a team of lawyers there. I'd be kicking ass myself. I'd be flinging my book at people. I'd be, putting it on the shelves. I'd be defiant. I'm 63. What are you going to kick my ass? I'm the guy in the weight room. I'm the guy who's got the tall trees that are friends. They're all from Detroit. I'll bring them along. Let's, that defeats the purpose. Pretty soon 100 guys. What do they say? Happy days. Let's have a rumble. Pretty soon 100 guys will be here with bats and chains and guns, and we're starting from scratch again. So that's not the way to go. Education is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think education absolutely is the way to go, and it's one of those things where people are just, I think they're educated by the wrong thing, and they don't care that they're educated by the wrong thing.
And they don't know.
They don't. And if you try to tell them or explain it, which seems so aggressive to them, like having the discussion, like, well, let's just talk it out. Well, why are you being so aggressive? I just asked if we could talk. But you see what I'm saying? It comes across to people now they're easily offended or put on the defensive about anything where you're trying to say, look, here are the facts. I can't listen to that F word. That is not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, any word. The N word. I respect the LGBTQ. And some of them have complained about the Jews. It's like, guys, you guys are next too. You're ahead of the African Americans. You're, come on, the disabled. So we need to be more tolerant. We need to. I'm not going to go out and boast and wear my Star of David out every day and say, stick my chest out and say, hey, this is Jew Pride Night or whatever. Famous Jewish History Month.
Yeah.
Whatever. Every day should be. Respect to each other, Black History Month, all of that. I love the Black people. I grew up with them. And down here in Florida, it's not just African Americans, the Haitians, the Jamaicans, people from South America, all over the Caribbean. Fantastic people, hard workers, nice people, fun to hang around with. And I'm not going to stare at it. Judge a book by their cover. And that's, I mean, sorry, don't judge a book by its cover. You can judge my book by its cover. It's got a good cover. But in general,
No, you're right.
by the way, congratulations. You're a prolific author. You've written, it looks like at least 3 books. So good for you.
I've written a few, but it took a while. It took a while. But
It's a pride. It's a lesson there. If you're going to be an author, you don't just write the book, hand it to an agent, and sit back and collect royalties. It just doesn't work.
No, but that's the fantasy people have when they find out you're an author. It's like, oh, so it's easy. So all you got to do is, no. First of all, writing the book's the easy part, buddy.
Right. It's everything else. Yeah, there's so many details to it. Like when my mom passed, there's so many details to take care of her affairs. That was a whole job in itself for a year. And now this book thing, it's another job. I mean, or you can even separate it. There's the economy of it. There's the creativeness of it. The editing, you can be a professional, and the marketing. So it's multiple jobs at the same time. So
yeah, I spoke to Dick Wildbrow last night, who was he used to be on CNN, and then went to CNN International, and we had that very conversation because that's what he does now. He writes, and we were having a conversation about that. It's like, man, the work begins afterwards, and it's tough. It's not glamorous. And yeah,
no doubt. I mean, there's exceptions. You're Bill Clinton or you're Shaquille O'Neal,
yeah,
or you're one of these guys. You write your autobiography. They're lined up. You've got authors and publishers. They're lined up outside the rafters to get your story down. But like little me, my dad, Ervin Wolf, who nobody's ever heard of, it's an uphill. And then especially after October 7th, our slippery slope went from this to this because the fight's even harder. But I love the challenge. I hate the hatred, and I hate the indifference and the anti-Semitism part and racism in general, because people aren't just attacking synagogues and Jewish people; they're attacking churches now, mosques, and that's wrong too. There's no pride, there's no sense of preservation, there's no sense of dignity in any of it.
There really isn't. I remember when Gina Carano got fired from Disney, and all because of her post about. And I don't know if you even know the story or remember what happened with her, but. When it was about World War II, where neighbors turned on neighbors, right? How the neighbors were turning on, reporting the Jewish people and turning them in to the Germans so they would be left alone.
Absolutely. But, in my book, in the story, not everybody did that at risk of their own life. Even peasants, when my dad was away in the middle of nowhere at forced labor camp, they would beg the peasants with whatever little money they might have scrounged up, or even sometimes for free or for favors. They had to beg the peasants and people, and of course my mom was in hiding. Her story wasn't as harrowing as my dad's, on the run all the time, or in hiding, or being beaten, or whatever. But she was a young girl. My mom was 11 years younger than my dad, so she was just a kid during the war, and she was hiding with her mom, her grandma, the uncle, in different places all the time for months, out in farms and out in the middle of the rural Hungary, and then in Budapest and all over, not knowing if you're going to get arrested, where you're going to eat. Like a Hungarian Anne Frank type thing. But my mom survived. Luckily, actually, they walked off the line. They were in a line, and they just kind of marched off, or they took off. And my mom never documented that story in writing, unfortunately. As much as she was a Holocaust educator, she only wrote like an 8-10 page memoir. And there's a memoir about her uncle Zoltan, who was a communist, to help preserve the family by switching to communism and diversifying. It's another story. And her uncle Lutzi, who was a chief surgeon at a Budapest hospital and got arrested by the communists. And we have some of the documentation of what he did. But otherwise, my mom, other than word of mouth, she didn't really put down as much. But just as harrowing for her. I'd be scared to death waiting for that door to, listening to those shit kicker boots and dogs, and then hearing them knock on the door, banging on the door. It wouldn't be knocking, it'd be banging. And we talk about it too with my dad's parents who were taken away to Auschwitz, and how some kid, barely even shaved, maybe 20, 22 years old, wet, no smile, just doing his orders, carrying out orders, and having my dad's parents. And they took it with pride. They took it with dignity. They knew what was going to happen. They were hoping for an end of the war, but they didn't have much help. They didn't have their own guns. They had no way to defend themselves. So, and that was true with 565,000 Hungarians died in World War II in a very, very short period of time. Record short. It was toward the end of the war. And that was a theme that was kind of in 1942 also, when it was seeming that the Nazis were losing the war. They went out of their way to make it more painful for the Jewish population, to accelerate the extermination and the persecution. And they're very systematic. And same with Hungary. And so my dad, it took him months to find out what happened to his parents. And it's heartbreaking. It was a very emotional point for me when I read about it. And then it stuck with me, and I had to walk away from the project for a couple of weeks just to think about it. And the grandparents I never met that were killed at 50 years old. So that's part of it. It's very emotional roller coaster, the kind of thing I'm doing, and happy, sad, happy ending. And I'm not talking about the massage parlor. I'm talking about the book. Although I was thinking of The Sopranos, a happy ending.
That's right.
Kung Pao Coochie. I love that.
But that is the thing. It's
another line I do. My dad. So my dad escaped 4 times. We could talk about. Probably, I'm talking my ass off here because I'm a radiologist. We talk fast, or we don't get to go home. Secondly, there's a lot of stuff to cover. But my dad missed an escape. He had 4 successful escapes. Turned back around in some cases, whatever. Finally, when they left the country, they never turned back. But he missed an escape under the communists. It was a very cloak and dagger story. Had a connection, said, I can get you out. So the day comes, my dad he goes to the wrong train station. He misses the train. And everybody that made the right train got arrested by the Soviets, including my dad's medical school classmates. So imagine that. I mean, the luck on this guy. Like there's some luck on this guy. And I prefer to think of it as the hand of God. I mean, you missed the train that's going to get you free, but it was the wrong train, and you would have been really screwed. And you would have lost your medical career. You've been in prison for who knows how long. And when my dad escapes, nobody caught him. Nobody found him. But then here's the light at the end of the tunnel we talk about. There was none. Whatever, you escaped, but where are you going to go? You got no food. You're in the middle of the mountains. You don't know where you're going to sleep. You don't know if you're going to get caught by the guards, eaten up by bears, wolves, other predators. Where your next job's going to come from? Should you keep your yellow band on? They have the yellow stars, but the forced labor guys had these stupid yellow bands and hats. And nevertheless, they were treated as prisoners of war at the end of the war, even though they were unarmed, and shot at by Russian airplanes when they were in the middle of and even though they were unarmed, and some sad stories that came out of that too. So you go with the flow, and my dad's survival instincts were just through the roof. I don't know how I could have escaped, how I could have survived that and not gone insane or survived it at all. And I would think that for most of us, unless you were in the military or a first responder, something like a carpenter, I don't know, somebody who's has a very, very tough job, tough career, tough mentally and physically, maybe you could survive, maybe. But for most of us, with the way we live right now, I don't know. God forbid anybody should have to find out.
Yeah, it's terrible. And you think about people like that. Ordinary people rise up through extraordinary things and make it through these extraordinary circumstances. Because that's not like it's just a walk in the park. I'm just going to walk through here. I'm free now. Like you said, you're talking about mountains, predators. They're just not human predators you're having to deal with. The elements, everything.
Right, the gladiator stuff. I got my sword in my one hand and my ball and chain in the other, and a lion's going after me, or a bear, or a wolf, whatever. It's like, I'm hungry today. The guy's bleeding too, so I'm extra hungry, right? The poor guy's bleeding from his arm or his leg. So, now you're from Mississippi, so it reminds me of the 2 great movies, and I'm talking more about movies than books. Ghost of Mississippi, with Alec Baldwin and I think Whoopi Goldberg, and great story. And also Mississippi Burning, from a true story from the 60s. The African-American kid and the 2 Jewish kids, and they murder them in Mississippi. It takes them forever. The FBI comes down. They make a big thing out of it, mostly because of the Jewish kids. But, God forbid, we're going backwards when it comes to anti-Semitism. Well, how would the African-Americans like it? Try telling it to Oprah or LeBron James or Eddie Murphy. Tell these guys, tell them, well, how would they like it if we had to go back in time and people couldn't work and everybody's protesting and there's rioting in the streets? I don't want that. So why are we going back 100 years? Why are we going back thousands of years and reigniting fights that don't need to be there?
That's right. And Oprah's from here.
From Mississippi. What about first billionaire, female billionaire entertainment, maybe Black American. The guy that owns famous Amos Cookies, that guy, I forget his name. But I mean, I'm happy for their success. I applaud, and that's probably one of the reasons for this hate, and maybe is poverty. Lack of education is something. Poverty, useful idiots. Those are all factors that fuel into this for sure. If you say, well, why is there so much? I'm sure poverty, desperation, things like that. I got nothing to lose, so I'm going to go protest. I'm going to go fight fight for something that I don't even know what I'm fighting about, but it makes me feel important. And that's really sad.
It is. I think ignorance has become such a major cancer, for lack of a better term, in this country right now. And it truly has, especially amongst the young, and not just, I just can't say amongst the young because that's not true either. It just seems to be it's being inundated and circulated around again because, like Mississippi, everybody outside of this state has a thought about Mississippi and what we are. But if you're in Mississippi, you know that what everybody's outside opinion of this state is absolutely backwards. Like, we are probably one of the friendliest states in the union. You know, the whole based off racism thing, that worked in the 40s and 50s and 60s. But that doesn't hold water at all anymore because people don't look at each other in color here. We just don't. Like, you're either my friend or you're not.
I agree. No, and that's the way it should be. That's the way it is here in Florida and Detroit for the most part. Chicago, another well-integrated city. Back in the day, I mean, I don't know about now. I mean, Chicago got a lot of crime, I hear, but I don't know if it's white versus black, Jew versus non-Jew. I mean, there have been anti-Semitic and hate crimes over the last few years, but there have been before that too. But of course, they've accelerated. I would love to visit Mississippi. What you know, another great movie, Biloxi Blues. That's an old movie, funny.
Good one.
Broderick. I saw the play too. So, no, you can't stereotype. Whatever happened, 50, 60 years ago. Vietnam is another good example. You know, people that have visited Vietnam say it's unbelievable. It's on my bucket list, and I'd love to go. But I just, I think everybody should go to Israel. It's another thing. Not you say all Jews should go to Israel. I think everyone should go to Israel. It's a game-changing, lump in your throat, very spiritually uplifting, eye-opening type of a trip. And when I left there, I didn't want to come back. I'm in beautiful southern Florida, and I didn't want to leave Israel. People were great. The food, beautiful women. Well, we got that in Florida. Not everybody, but they have the Sabra look, the dark eyes and the dark hair. And
oh yeah, oh my goodness.
And down here we've got that. Of course, we've got people from all over. So but it's not just blondes with blue eyes, but there's different types of beauty. But it doesn't matter what you look like if you don't have a good heart and a good soul and a good brain, then beauty it can be dangerous. I mean, it's so. Or having a good brain but not having a good soul is a very dangerous thing. That's most of these leaders that just they're pathologic.
Well, that's kind of one of the more shocking things. I say shocking again. It's probably not shocking, but especially when you know what the root of it is. It's just power and money. But when you hear these so-called leaders up here spewing the things that they spew, it's like, I know how old you are and you're an adult, supposedly, but how in the hell is that coming out of your mouth right now?
Absolutely. No, I can't picture it. I was in Texas last year for a lecture, and that's a great state in the South, and it would be a state that I wouldn't mind living in if I weren't in Florida. Lower taxes, nice people that believe in self-defense.
Yeah, that's my home state.
The economy's good. Lower. I mean, and plenty of room, a little bit of elbow room. You're not all crowded together like in Manhattan or whatever, Tokyo. And it would be something Mississippi I wouldn't know. I mean, I would consider living in Georgia, of course, and Louisiana. Been to New Orleans, love it. Been to Atlanta. Mississippi, I can't think if I've ever been, but it doesn't matter. Any place that'll accept me as a person, accept me who I am, and say, "Hey, Doc, how you doing? Hey, did you catch the score last night? Hey, you going to that concert?" That kind of. That's what we should be talking about.
That's it.
Did you see that new restaurant, that new bar that opened up? Let's go check it out. Let's go get a coffee at this place. Not this crap, this hate, and why do we got to talk about this? If I met you, first thing I would do if you came down to Southern Florida, come on, let's go get some lunch, right? Let me take you to lunch. You did that kind of thing. Not, oh, you're Christian. Oh, you're Protestant. And then Christians who don't even know the difference. I know Christians, they don't know the difference between Catholicism and Protestant and Lutheran. You got to be kidding me. And it's like the people that hate the Asians, like out during the coronavirus epidemic. They don't know the difference between Vietnamese, Japanese, Chinese, Laotian, Singapore, Thailand. Dude, these are different cultures. These are people from different countries. And, if you don't know who's who, if you start making an ass out of yourself and saying, calling somebody the C word for a Chinese person when they're in fact Korean, you're insulting yourself. You're not insulting, you're just insulting yourself, And the sad thing is they don't know it.
No, they don't. It's true. I got tickled. I heard a guy say one night, just drunken ass. It was like, Jesus hated the Jews. I'm like, you do know Jesus was a Jew, right? I mean,
and he didn't hate anybody.
He didn't hate anyone. That's the whole point. Is like, it shouldn't matter what you are, where you're from. It's like if you're good to somebody, that goodness is going to come back tenfold.
Well, that's why Christians should go to Israel. If you want to learn the history of Jesus, besides what's in the New Testament, go to Israel, and you'll see where he was. You'll see where his miracles occurred. And I'm not. The Jewish religion was established before Christianity came around, and that's why a rabbi explained to me many years ago why the Jews didn't convert. I mean, some did, but they had their own religion established, and it's hard to break old habits. It's hard to break mentality, of course, as we know. But we don't talk enough about Gandhi, Jesus, Moses, Noah, MLK. We talk about these jerks. We listen to these jerks that are the losers. We listen to these antitheses, these antagonists, instead of following the people that really try to do good by this. And it ended up badly for all of them too. I mean, how do you kill or hate somebody that is fighting hate? That's just
makes no sense.
I hate so much that I'm willing to kill for it. Medgar Evers was another one. Just Malcolm X. They all got assassinated. It's horrible. I mean, why? Because they're black and they're a leader and they just want peace. They want to be able to vote, and you kill a guy for that? Come on.
Well, it's like with the Charlie Kirk thing. I mean, whether you agree with Charlie or not, it's not the point. But to kill a man because they have a different opinion than you do, it's the epitome of a mental disease.
Yeah, it's not the way. I don't think the Lord designed us for that. For whatever, if you believe that He helped the Jewish people survive, the parting of the Red Sea, the manna from heaven, and all the other the floods, the Noah floods. Well, most people died then. Most of the world was just amazing that kind of story. But if somebody's going to point a gun at me and try to kill me, well, then the argument's over. They're either going to kill me or I'm going to defend myself, or they're going to change their mind. But then in that case, I think you're entitled to defend yourself. But it shouldn't even have to come to that. There's just no. Yeah. It's just sad if it does. I mean, like you said, mental health is it's undertreated in this country. It's underdiagnosed, and it's another pet peeve that besides the fight against anti-Semitism, we have a lot of problems in this country. Homelessness, starvation, the healthcare issue, the healthcare system, immigration, just the fact that so many countries hate us, all of that. But my corner of it is this fight against racism and anti-Semitism. If I can't get along with you and my neighbors because of my race or religion, then I'm screwed. I mean, we're done. I mean, there's only 14 million Jews on this planet. The rest of the world wants to eradicate us. It wouldn't be that hard,
Well, what I can tell you is you're accepted here in Mississippi. We just don't give a damn. As long as you're a good person, you can come here.
Well, I'll tell you, when Florida gets flooded, God forbid, and goes under with the water rising, the rising water level. I hope it never comes to that. But we have sinkholes and lots of rain, so you never know. But I'll keep that in mind. But Mississippi got a lot of water too, right? Get a lot of mud.
We did. I mean, we got it this year especially, but it's again, it's one of those things where it's just. I'm not one of these end time kind of guys. I'm like, this world has been changing since it was created, and it will continue to do so, whether you want it to or not.
Correct.
And so when it happens, are you going to just rise up, or are you just going to fold? And I think it's just a simple question of that. And so, which kind of person are you? Are you the one that is going to do it? I mean, like you standing up with this book, I love that because I think those are stories that need to be told, and people need to read them and they need to hear them.
And it takes a lot of links. Imagine somebody who survived till the day before they were rescued in some concentration camp. Think about that. They probably had a great story. Thousands and thousands of people like that. They made it until a week to go, or they died from starvation or pestilence, other diseases, which isn't talked about much, but a big part of it. My dad was. He succumbed to many diseases. Lucky to survive, a foot injury, a foot infection, lice, starvation, malnutrition, food poisoning, bad back, all kinds of stuff. I mean, on top of being beaten, on top of being persecuted, and not being able to make a phone call. There were no phones then. There were no witnesses. The slaying at the Danube, the 21,000 people in December and January. The war was just about over, but out of desperation, out of hate. And the Hungarian government and the Hungarian police hated the Jews more than the Nazis did. And they just in cold blood, they killed 21,000 people or so at the Danube. So that doesn't sit well with me either. And there were death marches in Hungary. And my dad, and before his first escape, my dad and his friend Frank thought that they were on a death march. And they said, you know what, it's time to get out of here. And better to die later and take all the risks that we talked about earlier than to sit here and just have people kill randomly or just die of exhaustion and starvation in the middle of nowhere. What kind of way is that to go either? So
Yeah, very true.
They took Plan B and it worked for them. But wow.
Yeah. So how do people get what is the best way for people to get this book?
Come to my house, like Tommy would say. To this house, come find me. I mean, if you want a signed copy, it's a little bit, it'll be a little more convoluted. But if you reach out to me, I'm happy to mail somebody a signed copy. Or if you're in the Florida area, reach out, we'll meet. But Amazon is the number one. You can the book's on hardback, paperback, audio, and ebook on Amazon. If you've got a Prime membership or you've got the membership for the reading, the ebook won't cost you anything. Audiobook's fantastic. It was an Australian narrator. Barnes & Noble, it's in some shelves at least 20 or 30 Barnes & Nobles around the country. You can get it on Barnes & Noble online or Walmart. The book's on sale. It's in at least 4 Holocaust museums that I know of, including the Mothership, where I've done some presentations, the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in D.C., a highly recommended place for people to visit if you're ever in the D.C. area, one of the most popular museums in the area. And then the one in Long Island, Detroit area, Michigan, and Chicago, and hopefully over time more. I'm on social media. I've got a website, robertjwolfmd.com, a lot of content if you're interested in delving further, a lot of podcasts, TV interviews, and things separately about World War II in Hungary and the Hungarian Revolution, and a YouTube channel. We're working on a documentary now, by the way. So
nice.
Yeah, it'll be like a 15, 20-minute documentary, AI generated. I can't wait till it's out. I think that'll help move the needle. Stay tuned on that. And then chat with me I can't fight anti-Semitism alone, like I said. So chat with me. I'm on social media, X, Meta, which is formerly Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky. So I spread myself a little thin with that, but I post a lot about this. I'm not all maudlin, though. You want to talk about sports, music, food, sex, golf, fitness, investing, history. I'm game. I'm an open-minded. I like to teach what I like to learn. But this is what I'm doing now, teaching about history and teaching about the fight against hate. So look up Robert J. Wolf, MD, or Not a Real Enemy, and you'll find us. You'll find it. Easy.
That's awesome. Dr. Robert Wolf, thank you for trusting us with your father's story and for sharing it with us today and for joining us here on the FAFO podcast. And look, for everyone watching or listening, Robert's award-winning book, again, is Not a Real Enemy, the true story of a Hungarian Jewish man's fight for freedom. You can get that book at robertjwolfmd.com. Go to Amazon, learn more about Robert. He gave you the website. I will post all the links down below, so they will all be there. Follow him on your socials. You just heard the man. And look, here's what I love. And Robert, correct me if I'm wrong here, but 10% of your books proceeds are permanently donated to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum.
That's correct. That's a win-win. I'm educating. The book educates, and that's what they do. All they do is educate. So that's for my mom. That's for the Jewish. That's for everybody, really. But that's my way of giving back to the community again and again. And that's in my trust and will. And hopefully, after this documentary, maybe it'll go into something farther. The 10% of my end of it, no matter what it's from, is going to go to the Holocaust Museum. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Not everybody does, and I forget sometimes too. But that makes it even better, even more incentive to get the story out.
Absolutely. You're not just getting a great book, but you're also helping a great cause. Folks, you are listening to the FAFO podcast. Facts, truth, no BS. Let's F it go.
No bullshit.
You got it next time. No bullshit. There it is.
No bullshit.
On the floor, have a tank of gas. Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass? I ain't preaching from a pulpit, I'm talking from the scar. You can dress up a lie, but it won't get far. They call it toxic when it burns.